Are we in your way?
A little bit.
A little bit? Yeah.
No worries.
You gotta sit down in front.
That's okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming tonight and taking the time to come to this meeting. We'd like to welcome you to the Resolution Copper Project and Land Exchange Draft Environmental Impact Statement, Open House, and Public Hearing. As most of you know, the Tonto National Forest recently published a draft DEIS for the Resolution Copper Project and Land Exchange. The EIS discusses the environmental impacts of the project. So tonight we are here to help you better understand the overall project and what is included in the draft EIS. We're also here to hear your comments about the content of the draft EIS. So for introductions, my name is Jill Grams and I work for SWCA Environmental Consultants, and I will be working as the facilitator for the meeting this evening. So from the Tonto National Forest, over here on my left, we have the Forest Supervisor, Neil Bosworth, Deputy Forest Supervisor, Tom Torres, and then here on the right, we have the EIS Project Manager, Mary Rasmussen. Next to Mary from the BLM, we have Jamie Lopez. And over here on my far left is Michael Langley with the Corps of Engineers. So we have a real interdisciplinary project and a lot of agencies represented tonight. Also from the Forest Service tonight, we have many specialists here in the back of the room at the open house that are here to help answer any questions that you have at our various poster stations. I work for SWCA Environmental Consultants, and we are the third-party contractor helping the Forest Service with the EIS. And you'll also see there are several of my colleagues here that were helped write the document and are also here to answer questions. So this evening we're going to start with a 15-minute video presentation that describes the draft EIS and the overall project. The presentation will be followed by a 2-hour approximate public hearing. If you want to speak at the public hearing, we've asked that people sign up in advance here in the back of the room with Donna. The hearing speaker positions will be assigned randomly, and when the presentation is over, we will post those random numbers on the screen behind me so you can see the order in which the speaking positions will happen. We anticipate that there could be up to 35 positions available during the 2-hour period. So now we will start the presentation.
The 193 million acre National Forest System is an important part of America's resource base. The Forest Service manages these federal lands for continuous production of their renewable resources, which includes timber, clean water, wildlife habitat, forage for livestock, and outdoor recreation. Minerals are also an important resource of the National Forests, and those 190 million acres mean that the National Forests contain a significant percentage of America's remaining non-renewable stores of minerals. Within Arizona, prospecting for minerals dates back to 1854, when the Arizona Mining and Trading Company launched a modern era of hard rock mining in Ajo, Arizona. By the 1870s, Hard rock mines were yielding large volumes of copper, lead, zinc, silver, and gold ore. Since then, Arizona has consistently been one of the top copper-producing states in America. Let's fast forward to 1995 when a copper deposit was discovered within 2 miles of the Magma mine near the town of Superior. This ore deposit is located primarily on the Tonto National Forest. Over the next decade, Resolution Copper Mining, LLC submitted a general plan of operations for an underground copper mine to the Tonto National Forest. And Congress authorized a land exchange pending completion of the Environmental Impact Statement as outlined in Section 3003 of the National Defense Authorization Act. In short, this act would provide the mining company with ownership to the land above the copper deposit. On August 9, 2019, the results of the Forest Service-led environmental review for these 2 related actions were released in the draft Environmental Impact Statement, which is commonly referred to as a DEIS.
What are the key points one should take away from the draft Environmental Impact Statement? Well, for starters, the DEIS cites the laws, the acts, and the Code of Federal Regulations that explain why the Forest Service prepared the draft Environmental Impact Statement, as well as how it was prepared. Detailed information to help you become more familiar with the origins of the project is available in Chapter 1. During the scoping period in 2016, we heard of the 2 topics of most concern for the Forest Service to address: developing reasonable alternatives that could minimize effects to people and the environment, and to fully examine and disclose the magnitude of probable impacts from the project.
The Forest Service assessed alternative mining techniques in an effort to prevent subsidence. Resolution Copper proposes to use a mining technique known as panel or block caving to extract the ore. The Forest Service determined that no alternative mining methods were reasonable based on the character and depth of the ore body. The Forest Service also considered more than 30 alternatives for design and location of a tailings storage facility. Key variables included location, type of embankment or dam, and the water content of the tailings. Research of sites in central and southern Arizona narrowed the range of alternatives to 5 options at 4 separate locations, including 1 location not on federal land.
Combined with the required no-action alternatives, the Forest Service analyzed a total of 6 alternatives in the DEIS. These are described in Chapter 2. Environmental impacts and trade-offs among the action alternatives vary due to the differences in the tailings embankment design, the tailings deposition method, or the geographic location and affected surroundings of the proposed tailings storage facility. Tailings are the waste material left after the ore has been processed and the valuable mineral is extracted. Tailings usually are stored as a slurry, a thick liquid comparable to a milkshake. In addition to different locations, we also looked at the type of embankment used to hold back the tailings. In recent years, several large tailings embankments have failed around the world. Resolution Copper originally proposed an upstream type of embankment. However, this type of embankment is rapidly losing favor in the mining industry worldwide. All of the alternatives analyzed in the draft Environmental Impact Statement either use a modified centerline embankment or a centerline embankment.
Tailings can also vary in the amount of water they contain. As the water content of the tailings decreases, the solids content of the tailings increases. We selected alternatives that span a range of water content, with thickened tailings having the most water, ultra-thickened tailings having less water, and ultimately, filtered tailings having the least water. Filtered tailings, also known as dry stack tailings, have so little water content that they are handled as solids instead of liquid. The Forest Service has identified Alternative 6, Skunk Camp, as its preferred alternative. This alternative would move the tailings facility outside of the Superior Basin and further away from people. Skunk Camp involves no federal land and the site is close to other mining activity. Alternative 6 would use thickened tailings and use a centerline embankment. However, because of the unique cross-valley construction, the embankment here is substantially shorter and more resilient to mishap than the other alternatives.
After we developed alternatives, we turned our attention to what kinds of direct, indirect, and cumulative impacts are likely to occur from the proposed mine plan and land exchange. We used the 15 issue-based resource topics identified during scoping to organize and disclose these likely effects. Let's take a closer look at these expected impacts, which are fully described in Chapter 3 of the draft EIS. The project would create up to 3,700 jobs and add about $1 billion per year to Arizona's economy, but may have negative impacts on property values, tourism, infrastructure, and emergency services. Air quality meets all national air standards at the project fence line, and the health impacts assessment did not raise concerns for cancer or non-cancer illnesses. A hiker in the Superstition Wilderness looking towards the mine might see a haze only about 5% of the time.
In regards to tribal values and cultural resources, the project would impact the Oak Flat traditional cultural property that is held sacred by the tribes, disrupt acorn collection from Emery oak groves, disturb human burials, and destroy sacred springs, and adversely impact archaeological sites, both prehistoric and historic, located in areas whether the ground is disturbed or covered by tailings. Measures that would reduce impacts to cultural resources are under development as part of a programmatic agreement between multiple federal agencies and state agencies, interested parties, and Resolution Copper.
Removal of the ore below Oak Flat will cause the ground surface to collapse, creating a subsidence crater. At the end of mining, the crater would be 1.8 miles across and up to 1,100 feet deep. Underground mining activities would not damage Apache Leap, Devil's Canyon, or US Highway 60.
Across the project area, between 10,000 and 17,000 acres of soil and vegetation could be disturbed by subsidence, placement of tailings, or construction of pipelines and utility corridors. These disturbed areas would revegetate slowly, with impacts to soil health and productivity lasting from centuries to millennia. The Forest Service is requiring a robust reclamation plan to lessen these impacts to desert soils and vegetation. There are federally listed species known to occur in the project area. The endangered Arizona hedgehog cactus may be impacted during operations at the East Plant site and by ground subsidence. The endangered western yellow-billed cuckoo could be impacted by changes in stream levels and associated riparian vegetation along Rains Canyon. Resolution Copper will be required to follow terms and conditions identified by the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service to ensure protection of these endangered species.
There are several types of water-related impacts expected from extracting and producing 40 billion pounds of copper. Dewatering of underground mine facilities would affect from 14 to 16 sensitive springs or streams. Mitigation is proposed that would partially offset these groundwater impacts. The mine would pump between 180,000 and 590,000 acre-feet of water from the East Salt River Valley for the mine water supply. About half of this water is offset by recharge and recovery credits. Water quality is a concern due to seepage from the tailings facility. Alternatives 2, 3, and 4 appear problematic, while alternatives 5 and 6 have manageable water quality impacts. Several state and federal cooperating agencies have jurisdiction for issuing permits related to water quality, quantity, and use. Resolution Copper would be required to obtain all water-related permits and approvals prior to commencing project construction and operations.
Recreation is a popular use of the Tonto National Forest along US Highway 60 and the town of Superior. Access to public lands and recreation opportunities would be eliminated permanently on 4,900 to 10,800 acres. The project would impact off-road vehicle routes, world-class climbing and bouldering areas, the Arizona Trail, and the Oak Flat Campground. Mitigation has been proposed that would partially offset these recreation impacts. The project is expected to affect visual quality and scenery in portions of the Tonto National Forest. The mining facilities, including the tailings storage area, would be visible from long distances. The change in contrast caused by land disturbance and vegetation removal, dust, and equipment would strongly impact the scenery viewed from some trails and highways.
The Forest Service examined the risk to public health and safety at each of the tailings embankment locations. All alternative designs are built to the same safety standards, but they differ in their resilience to unexpected events or upsets. Alternatives 2 and 3 are the least resilient because they use modified centerline embankments and have 10-mile-long freestanding embankments and do not use separate storage cells for pyrite tailings. Alternative 6 is the most resilient, using a centerline embankment that is only 3 miles long and anchored on each side. These are some, but not all, of the impacts identified in the draft environmental impact statement. A comparison of impacts by alternative is available in Chapter 2, Section 2.5. Appendix E has a detailed alternatives impact summary.
In summary, the Forest Service would like to hear from you. This is your chance to keep the public in your public lands. To close this presentation, we'll now hear from the responsible official.
Hi, I'm Neil Bosworth, Forest Supervisor for the Tonto National Forest. It's a tremendous privilege and a tremendous responsibility to manage the largest national forest in Arizona. My duties include carefully balancing demands for economic prosperity with a commitment to environmental stewardship and sustainability. The Resolution Copper Project and Land Exchange is a current example. Without a doubt, this project has been one of the most complex and controversial projects of my career, weighing new jobs, economic growth, and production of metal in high demand against protecting public lands and resources for present and future generations. As the deciding official for this project, I will use information from the environmental impact statement, along with supporting documentation, to determine whether changes in the proposed mining plan are required prior to approval. Additionally, I will choose the alternative that best meets the purpose and need for this project, while also minimizing environmental impacts. These are not decisions I take lightly. That's why it's so important for you, our stakeholders, and the public to provide insightful comments regarding the findings in the draft environmental impact statement. Between now and November 7th, I welcome your comments regarding the choice of preferred alternative, expected environmental impacts of the project, and/or the environmental review process itself. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you.
Okay, we're getting ready to start start the public hearing portion of the meeting this evening. First of all, I would like to invite up the Town of Superior Mayor Bessage, and she would like to make an announcement, and then we will get into the hearing.
Good evening, everyone, and I'd like to thank the Forest Service for giving us a quick moment. I'd like to welcome everyone to Superior, and it's wonderful to see so many friendly faces and people that have been from our community traditionally and from throughout our region. This is a night and a time that we've all been very anxious for because the DEIS provides a lot of data that helps us to make critical decisions for our community. As Mr. Bosworth said, it is tremendous. Each of us have a tremendous responsibility to participate in this process. The Town of Superior does have many specific concerns regarding water, socioeconomic concerns as they were addressed in the video, and our infrastructure, as well as education and recreational access. We're confident that through this process we can arrive at mitigations that will both best support this project and moving Superior and our region forward. I'd like to invite all of you to get more in-depth information about what are the Town of Superior's immediate concerns. We are having a public work session, a full council work session on Thursday, September 12th at 6 p.m. in our Town Council chambers. This will be a time that we will have a chance to share what are our specific concerns and how we would like to see some of these things mitigated. Council is expected to approve our comment letter at our October council meeting. You're all invited to participate in our very open, transparent, and public process on the Town of Superior's feelings regarding the Resolution Copper project. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mayor. So we had about 14 people, I think, sign up to speak at the hearing. If you still want to sign up, you can do so at the back table and get a speaker number. I want to also tell you that there are other ways to provide comments. So these will be official comments on the public record for the draft environmental impact statement. We have another court reporter that is stationed in a classroom just down this hallway, the back corner of the room. They are in there and they will take any verbal comment from you in a private setting if you would like to do that. You can also provide comments on the project website as well as by mail. That information is detailed in the handout that you received this evening when you signed in. In general, we are asking that people focus their comments on the draft EIS. So these comments will be used to edit the draft EIS and create a final EIS. So any information that you are concerned about in terms of the content of that document, that's the best information that we could get in terms of comments. So listed on the screen behind me is the random order of comment numbers. So you would use your speaker card, you can find your number. If you would like, you could stage up here in this front row here on my left. We have some reserved seats for you. I would like to discuss a few ground rules before we get started. First of all, this is not a question and answer session, so our government officials are here to hear your comments, but there won't be any question and answer, or they will not be engaging with the speakers here at the microphone. Essentially, our basic ground rules are here on the sign. Be courteous and treat others with respect. Allow others the opportunity to be heard, honor differing opinions, and please observe the time limit. You will have 3 minutes to provide your comment. We have a countdown timer here on this computer screen that will illustrate your time at the microphone. I will be back here. I'll stand up when you have about 15 seconds left and approach the microphone when your time is up. We do have ample time to hear from everyone this evening, so in terms of how many people have signed up so far. We have a court reporter over here, and she is taking down your official public comment. As I said, these comments are part of the EIS project record, and we would ask that you please start your comment by stating and spelling your first and last name, so your comment is accounted for you personally. This is optional. If you don't want to give your name, that's okay. Lastly, I'd like to just say we do have the open house available. If you want to keep looking at the posters, please do so. And when we're done with the hearing portion of the meeting, we will continue the open house and be here until 8:30 this evening. So it looks like we are starting with commenter number 15. And then taking the numbers from left to right.
Good evening, my name is Leslie Glass. Spelling is Leslie, last name Glass, Glass. My comments are specifically regarding federal values and concerns, section 2.14, which states unavoidable impacts that cannot be fully mitigated. Therefore, mitigation strategies are, number one, providing jobs during the tribal monitoring, and number two, allowing unfettered access to Emery Oak resources. The DES also states, according to the tribes consulted, adverse impacts on TCPs and TEKPs and other places where resources of significant to tribes cannot be mitigated. Therefore, mitigation strategies for tribal resources are designed to provide an exchange for the loss of the resources. The mitigation strategies will have and are having positive impacts on tribal communities, such as providing jobs during the tribal monitoring and allowing unfettered access to Emery Oak resources. Yet, all 21 federally recognized tribes in Arizona are opposed to the land exchange. These mitigation strategies and exchange for the loss of cultural resources are insulting and disturbing to me. They are incomprehensible or incomparable in value. The traditional cultural properties that will be irreversibly damaged and the permanent changes that affect the ability of tribal members and non-native people like myself to use this area for religious and spiritual purposes is incomprehensible to me. I would also like to comment and ask a question. I would like to know why the draft environmental impact statement was released without having cultural resource surveys completed on the preferred alternative of Skunk Camp. Thank you.
My name is Roger Featherstone. You need me to spell it? ROGERFEATHERSTONE. I'm director of the Arizona Mine Reform Coalition. We will, of course, be doing some really detailed written comments, so this is just a few other things. We feel that this release of the draft was premature. It needs to be withdrawn, it needs to be redone and reissued. So I want to cover 5 quick points. The original location of the tailings dump, Rio Tinto swore up and down on a stack of Bibles that this was the best thing since sliced bread. It was a perfect location. After that, Rio Tinto actually did geotechnical testing and found out that the water table was too high and the ground was too fractured and it wasn't a good site. So now we're looking at this preferred alternative as Skunk Camp, but they haven't done the same level of geotechnical testing. They don't know if it's actually suitable or not. Why has the DEIS come out before they've done this kind of work? And what happens if they find out, like the original location, it's unsuitable? Water. does Rio Tinto think that they can use only 10% of the average water that existing Arizona mines use without any new techniques? This seems to be magic, like many of Rio Tinto's proposals. In light of the recent circuit court decision on the Rosemont mine case that shows that the Forest Service, that ruled that the Forest Service cannot use public land, cannot allow mining companies to use public land for dumping waste and other activities without special permission. In light of this court case, we wonder why this DEIS is being released now, and that ruling obviously has profound implications toward this whole design. Fourth, why have you chosen 4 tailings dump alternatives that are illegal in both the countries of Brazil and Chile? Are we in the United States now going to accept dam criteria, tailings criteria that's illegal in foreign countries? And then finally, why are we moving so quickly on this proposal when Rio Tinto itself is saying they're putting this proposal on the back burner behind mining projects in Mongolia and Australia? Thank you.
I'm number 5, going number 3. My name is David Gunn, D-A-V-I-D, G-U-N-N. Got that? Primarily, I'm an engineer, a rock climber, and now a resident of Superior. So I bring a number of hats to the review of this document. I haven't been able to read through the whole thing. I've gone through basically the first volume, and I have to say, there's a tremendous amount of work that's gone into this, and I appreciate the level of detail that it shows. A lot of detail on the alternatives, although those aren't the only impacts that I see. Specifically, the engineer in me sees some differences in the grade of copper that's coming out. A couple of different places, different numbers. That bothers the engineer in me. Not a big deal, but it bothers me. I see that the general plan of operations and the forest plan have some conflict. And in the draft EIS, say, well, we're going to change the forest plan. I think that's backward. I think the general plan of operations need to be changed to be consistent with the current plan that the forest has. The rock climber in me says, well, we're losing quite a bit of rock climbing out there, and in the draft EIS says there'll be some mitigation, but in Appendix J, mitigation and monitoring plan, there's nothing in there about it. So that bothers me. Thank you.
Aku was on, aku cemetery was on, aku she went up my court, she said, everyone now she called, she knew, everyone died, but she came over here. Don't need them, they don't kill Kayana. Don't Kayana Kayana. Don't German Kayana. Don't Canada, Kayana, Kuwait, United States, the San Carlos Apache tribe. No tour on living tag, where was it on living tag? Never tour, I never tour. You tell on living, I ai thu lại cả nên ai vừa thu được mà nó khai ra đó họ thu nó rất khéo nó thế này là con đầu thằng thế phát triển của thế để ông sư của đi vì nên của đi phát triển để ông sư của đi ông phải để ông sư của đi số đó là đang khai ra cô gái khai nó chỉ là sự ám cô gái chỉ là sự ám cô gái chỉ cho mình ta có thể là ông phải chỉ anh đến chỉ anh sai το καιο δεν είναι αέρα, το καιο δεν είναι αέρα, το αέρα δεν είναι αέρα. Τα κοβέ σκηνίνηκε, τα κοβέ σενκάρεστε, κούνι γάικο. Αν χρησιμοποιεί, νομί, να σερχές, το νομί, αρρώσε, τα resolution controversy, αισθάνομαι, Rothschild, τα κοι, όλα, Queen Elizabeth, τα κοι, όλα, Tonto, ai Tonto, da, we must pay. The other idea, resolution conference, da, Tonto, da. You know, so they don't see each other. Dance, we watch, to kind of see, without standing, to kind of without standing, she, I want everyone to get money young. That's close, no, there. Låt era dödsdomen och låt era DNA och kan volym kaj och kan hela en kaj och kan till granddaughter who wants to talk ceremony also och play to Jewish hotel a kudo masa with stantly och I began the way talks to daje och stod läs där vi 18 där och det har tagit daje och ana patches nu att here
Name is Tom Wright, T-O-M, W-R-I-G-H-T. 3 minutes is not a whole lot of time, so I'll try to keep it simple and quick. First, I want to call attention to the botched rollout of the draft DEIS. Multiple dates were provided. There's a recover letter dated August 1st. There's an official announcement that was dated on August 9th. The beginning of the comment period was October 10th. I would note that the last 2 dates were Friday and Saturday, which are not exactly ideal times to announce the release of public documents. Back in June, I received an email from the Forest Service that specifically noted that hard copies, rather than electronic, would be available to anybody who requested them at that time. So I did request a hard copy in writing in June. I did not receive one at the time that the EIS release was announced. I waited a few days, I still didn't receive one. I sent an email to the public affairs specialist on the 19th, I believe it was, of August, and made kind of a stink about it. And the next day, there was a copy dropped off at my doorstep. At that point, 10 days had elapsed. That's 10% of the comment period was gone before I was even provided with a copy of the document that I had requested 2 months previously. That's not good. I thought it was somewhere between amusing and outrageous that when I had tried to get in touch with Mr. Skaggs, the phone number that I had for him did not work. It was suggested on the recorded message that I contact the Mesa Ranger District. I did so by phone. The individual who had answered said he didn't know anything about it. So I asked for Mr. Skaggs' phone number, and the response is he doesn't have a phone. So the public affairs specialist does not have a phone number. Like I said, that's somewhere between funny and outrageous, leading towards the outrageous. Let's see. We need to extend the comment period. Scoping began on March 18, 2016. The draft DEIS was officially made available on August 10, 2019. That's a period of roughly 3 years and 5 months. I ask that the public be given the same amount of time to review and comment on this document that it took to prepare it. This may seem like an absurd, ridiculous, outrageous thing to ask for, but the real outrage is expecting anybody to review 1,300 pages and provide any meaningful comment within 90 days. I'm serious about requesting a time extension that reflects the extraordinary scope of this project and the impacts that it will have on our region and our state. 0, time is up.
Zobel, D-O-N-Z-O-B-E-L. And what my input is that I don't think anyone in there, I may be wrong, did they look at what the past history of the company is. And these are foreigners coming over here proposing to destroy part of Arizona for their benefit. And when we're driving around in Spain, I had in my van, I had a Lonely Planet, and I ran across this thing that said Rio Tinto. Well, that's interesting. I heard that before. And so I said, well, we'll take a look at that. You know? And you go there, and it's this mining area where they got their name turned out. And it's this bombed out moonscape that they've been mining there really probably for millennia, but they, pick and shovel and small things, and then these big companies come in and just destroy the place. And they went off. They just left. And then they gave a few shekels for a museum, and that's it. In my old age now, I guess what I've learned is people and companies tend to do what they did in the past. And I think that should be taken into account in the EIS. And I think the past history of these companies needs to be considered. Thank you.
My name is Audrey Johnson, A-U-D-R-E-Y-J-O-H-N-S-O-N. I'm here to say something about Oak Flat. Oak Flat was my home one time, and now they're trying to take it away. And I don't want that to happen. I remember when I was small, our parents used to bring us over here together, acorn, medicine, ball tea, everything. And we stayed there sometimes the whole summer, which they wanted to take away from us. I don't think it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Resolution. We want to make money out of us, out of our land. This is a pledge of land. We're here first. It's American Indian in the United States. Way back at the time, Mexican was our neighbors. They used to trade. That's what my grandfather used to tell us. They were friends one time, but they steal from each other sometimes. They would meet, they steal their cars and all that. But one of these days, I called the Mexicans, my brothers, my sisters, my relatives. But one of these days, they're going to be back, and we'll have Mexican president of the United States. Thank you.
Nancy Freeman, Nancy Freeman.
I am from Green Valley, Arizona, and I got my initiation into being a mining activist because the local mining slurry was in our public drinking water. It took me 5 years and all my retirement funds. I retired to Green Valley to relax. But the mining company did step forward and spent, well, initially $50 million to get interceptor wells and clean the slurry and give us new wells. So we were no longer drinking slurry. And the same with the air, the dust. When there's a big windstorm, the dust settles on everything. And some of you will remember that the last time I was here, in this high school, no, I don't think it was this high school, it was the old one, that Senator McCain conducted in a public session. McCain asserted that the Rio Tinto Resolution Mining Company would bring billions of dollars into the federal coffers. I stood up in defense of this assertion. I had checked the Rio Tinto annual report from their operations north of Salt Lake City and knew that they did not pay a dime of federal taxes. Senator McCain scoffed and said publicly that I didn't know anything, which caused the audience to laugh at me. Fortunately, there was one honest resolution official in the audience. He approached me afterwards and took me aside and told me privately, "Nancy, you were correct. Like all corporations, we do not pay any federal taxes. When we refer to federal taxes, it is the income tax that our employees will pay." So if you were thinking that paid holidays, etc., were write-off for tax deductible, you were wrong. They don't pay taxes. Colonialism is still alive and well in U.S. foreign mining companies not paying taxes, and they do not pay any royalties. They just rip off the U.S. citizens, taxpayers, for their benefit and take off. I am going to go through a list of federal laws that this particular project will not be in compliance with.
My name is Mitchell Michaels, M-I-T-C-H-E-L-L, M-I-C-H-A-E-L-S. I've already spoken with the court reporter earlier, so I won't go through much of this material. But I would like to quote from ES 3.7, Water Resources. It states, groundwater supplies in Superior, top of the world, could be impacted by groundwater drawdown, but would be replaced through mitigation. It's wonderful to finally see this in writing. I've been fighting for over a decade to get that admitted to her. Madam Mayor, if I may make a suggestion, and I quote from your letter, where you indicated that the USSF only disclosed these impacts in March, and Resolution Copper Mining has committed to making sure that any decrease in water will be replaced. That's not mitigation, right? We need to fight for restitution. Mitigation simply means you're going to make our problem less severe. Restitution means you're going to make me whole. If you steal 100 pennies from me, you can return 10 and you have lessened my problem, but it's still severe. I don't want 10 pennies or 20 or 50 or 90, I want all of my 100 pennies returned. And the point is at top of the world for you, Madam Mayor, you may drill extra wells down here at Superior to solve your problem. But at the top of the world, we have no other resource but the water that's underneath our feet. We have no rivers, no streams, no babbling brooks. And if you were to impact our water supply and then drill a well into the water supply that you've impacted, you would be basically robbing Peter to pay Paul. My attitude is and always will be, I support this project, but no company, none, should be allowed to make a penny on the expense or to the hurt of any human being. And if there is going to be restitution made, those systems need to be in place before the problem occurs, so that if there ever is a problem, we can basically flip the switch and we will be back where we were. But the problem at top of the world is it's 8 miles from here. The Resolution Copper would have to create a water company, pump water for 8 miles, become Arizona Water doing business at, and then get permission from each one of us landowners to pipe the water supply into our homes. So please, folks, I don't know, I'm not a mining expert. I was not born and raised. I only came here as a preacher 25 years ago. I know nothing about mining, but I do know this. Mitigation doesn't work. Mitigation for the Queen Creek watershed, mitigation for the Gila River, water supply, those problems were created by resolution, and they're taking less of them and make them less severe. God bless that. But you want restitution, not mitigation. You don't want your problem less severe. You want your problem brought back to where it was before any change occurred. How's that?
I'm wondering about the cultural issues. Since the Forest Service considers Oak Flat to be sacred and a traditional cultural property, why is the Forest Service thinking of allowing Rio Tinto to destroy Oak Flat? And why haven't you fully analyzed the cultural value of Oak Flat and the new Skunk Camp tailings dump alternative? Another thing is the results of impact analysis for the proposed action alternative 2, the near west site. Environmental justice communities identified in the analysis area include 8 identified Native American communities, as well as the town of Hayden, Miami, Below Superior, and Wimbledon. However, economic effects from the mine will be most apparent in the environmental justice community of the town of Superior due to its immediate proximity to Resolution Copper project operations. While mine-induced beneficial economic activity would be expected to increase in the region generally, the expected influx of new workers may also lead to shortages of area housing and/or pressures on municipal infrastructure such as roads, schools, and medical facilities, and may be accompanied by price increases. Such changes will be most likely to adversely affect low-income and minority individuals in the town of Superior and other environmental justice communities in the region. Environmental effects in the immediate area, such as increased traffic noise, increased potential exposure to hazardous material spills or releases, as well as loss of certain recreational opportunities and changes to the area scenic resources, are anticipated to occur, but would affect everyone equally and would therefore not be disproportionate. I also want to talk about socioeconomics. Property values are expected to decline in close proximity to the tailings storage facilities and are estimated to average 4.1% under Alternative 2, and loss of hunting revenue due to tailings storage facility is expected to be greater under Alternative 2, but also the same for Alternative 3, 4, 5, and 6. Effects of the nature-based tourism economy. Also, there's going to be a potential effects to the impact, socioeconomic impacts. Also for this area. Construction and operations of the proposed mine could affect both the town of Superior costs to maintain its network of streets and roads, as well as those of Pinal County. That's it. Thank you.
I just want to start out by thanking Forest Service for coming out to the public hearing. My name is Roy Chavez, R-O-Y-C-H-A-V-E-Z. I'm a lifelong resident of Superior, third generation. I worked in the magma operation, I worked in the PHP operation, I worked for Kennecott, and I worked for Heckler Mining. So I've got a little bit of experience in all flavors of the mining industry. This process should have been handled several years ago through the NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act. And our elected officials circumvented that to this special interest legislation. And that's what finds us here today. This whole process should have been done a long time ago before those officials passed judgment and made a ruling that these public lands, be it sacred, important, viable for recreation use and other uses, be considered prior to allowing a private entity to take over the land, whether it's a mine or a bowling alley. That was the law. And that's what irritates me today, is that this is the lawful procedure. This is special interest legislation, people. And you have an opportunity to say that in public comment. The DEIS paints a bleak picture for the economic and social conditions and impacts on the community of Superior, especially referenced by our Superior Mayor, Mila, in regards to her comments that she made 2 weeks ago or so in the local paper and on social media. I'd like to know a question in reference to Alternative 6 tailing site. The reason the site is going to be placed somewhere in this region is because of the mining method, and that was explained in this beautiful little video presentation. But quite honestly, I'd like to see a document that's signed by Rio Tinto, not resolution, but Rio Tinto, that guarantees that that's the placement of the site. Because this is an alternative. I'll tell you what, I've been an alternate for many years in many sporting events. I didn't get to play much. That's Jimmy O'Donnell. I didn't always go in the game, but I was there ready, but they chose other players. Lastly, I want to state that on July 14, 2019, this year, Rio Tinto announced through Bloomberg Financial that they were holding off with the Resolution project here in Superior in favor of a new mining operation in Australia, and also focusing more on the Mongolian project in Mongolia. And by the way, to end, the government and the people of Mongolia are getting 34% of the revenue from that mining operation. I think we're getting, my time's up, that means it's 0, that's what we're getting.
I brought these up here. I barely got these 2 weeks ago, okay? So, I mean, really, I'm supposed to talk about them right now? I can't do that. I need time to study. So, what I did do just about an hour or so ago, I wrote down something that I would like to say, and I can't, because I can't sit and not say nothing. Yet I feel the time and my home is being taken away from copper, Rio Tinto. If you guys allow it to be destroyed, if you guys allow this destruction to take place, if you kill my identity and many others, I'm talking Apache identities, and the reason I'm saying my identity too is because Oak Flat is my church. It's been my church since I was a little kid, since my father used to preach at San Carlos. Okay, your unfairness on how you manipulated this whole public hearing too is just, there's no time. We have not had time to study, to do anything. I think it's inexcusable, and I think it's inexcusable to the very vows that you guys, as a force department, have taken to protect the land. Time is on whose side here? I mean, really, claims have been made that RCM and their plans are to a T, but really they're not. They're well far off. There's been claims made on this land. I see them everywhere, and it's outdated. It's outdated the way they go about it. For the 1872 mining reform law, the President Eisenhower set aside Oak Flat not to be destroyed. When I was little, I remember looking at it, looking at Globe, Miami, thinking, oh my gosh, what the mines have done is terrible. That will never happen in Superior. That will never happen in my mountains, to my town. And yet, here I am, fighting for this. It's very emotional to me because I love my town. I love these mountains. I grew up here. I explore them. I cherish them. It is my place. It's my place, my heart. And that's ruined it. You know, that's just, it's shame on me.
Why, after all this time and over 1,300 pages, why do we still not have exact location picked, or at least narrowed down to 2? What is everyone waiting for? When will the exact location be made public, especially since alternative 6 is the preferred site? Now, there's not going to be a liner for number 4 alternative, which is the Silver King. Why not? There's a section on page 86 that says runoff and line ditches. Why will the ditches be lined when you aren't going to line the tailings? And how long is the lining good for? And once the lining wears out, who pays for the replacement? Or will there even be a replacement? And who pays for this? Sticking with Silver King, Volume 1, page 81, 2.2.6.1. Reads like it is okay to have issues with water quality, public health and safety that may be associated with concrete pipeline ruptures and spills for Superior, but not for the Marco Corridor area, which is the Santan Valley area. So why would it be okay for Superior to have these issues and none for anyone else? Volume 1, Chapter 3, still on Silver King. No site-specific geotechnical investigations have been performed at the Silver King site. Why not? Also, how much is RCM being bonded for? If they should file for bankruptcy, as mine sometimes do, will bonds still be in effect, and will that bond cover all of the cleanup, or will it be placed on the superfine list, and we, the United States citizens, pick up the tab? Mines are to be cared for in perpetuity. Will the bond cover perpetuity? At what depth will RCM be able to stop dewatering? Can dewatering take place while mining is going on, or does dewatering have to be complete before mining commences? If RCM is still dewatering at the time of closure, how much deeper will someone have to go to stop the dewatering? And now, water. We're going to use over 2 billion gallons of water every single year. What do we want to see? Do
Do we want to see others come in from out of state? Or do we want to go thirsty and not have anyone come out here? Thank you. Oh, I'm not done. It is not possible to make specific predictions about mining seismicity at the proposed resolution copper mine. However, the potential surface effects for induced earthquakes that might occur at the proposed mine would include ground shaking on a local scale, which could include the town of Superior. So think about that.
Good evening. My name is Henry C. Munoz Sr., HENRY-MUNOZ-SR with a dot. First of all, I want to reference the draft DEIS Chapter 4, Consulted Parties, Section 4.8, Cooperating Agencies, specifically the USGS, which declined to participate. The USGS, United States Geological Survey, is a science bureau within the Department of the Interior. It says they declined to participate. Why? This is what the USGS does. It provides science about the natural hazards that threaten the lives and the livelihoods, the water, the energy, minerals, and other natural resources we rely on, the health of our ecosystems, the environment, and the impacts of climate and land use change. Okay? Not having them is like the police department having a homicide and they're sending their street cop over there, and the homicide detective is saying, no, I don't want to go. It's an oxymoron. Okay? This blockading that they're proposing to do has never been done nowhere in the world. By the way, I have 23 years of mining experience, 5 generations of family in the mines, 13 of it block cave mining. Why is there not an alternative to cut and fill? About 12 years ago, I had a discussion with Dr. Robert McNish. He has 29 years with the USGS. He was a professor at the U of A when he retired from USGS, and he told me, you know what, Henry? We're in a drought. We're 6 years in a drought, and it's going to get worse. The Native Americans are going to win their war, their trial, and the rights to their water. And you know what? Guess what happens? Yes, they did. He said, we better be nice to them. Check this out. July 18, 2018, City of Gilbert signs a 100-year water lease with the San Carlos Apache tribe for $31.2 million. That's 6,000 acre feet for 12 to 15,000 households a year. On August the 9th, 2016, City of Chandler pays Gila River Tribe $43 million for a 100-year lease on CAP credits, which could be worth up to $80 million over time as water prices go up. Chandler will receive 55 million gallons a day of water. Okay, what does CAP water mean to us? CAP water means Arizona, now with this drought contingency plan that just went in, is going to lose 192,000 acre feet a year. 2.8 million of that, tribes already own half of that. Nevada's going to lose 8,000 acre feet of water. Mexico will lose 41,000 acre feet of water. Okay, that's 12% cut to CAP. CAP provides water for 40 million people. That's 5 million acres of farmland. You can see now they're going to start drilling down here. The state is going to provide like 5 to 10 million to drill wells down here in the Santan area because there's no more water. They're going to be drilling for water. But, like Mr. Bosworth says, this is a complex issue. Where's the USGS? That's the main thing I'm saying. Well, we need the expertise. It's not there. Thank you very much. God bless.
Two. 16.
Hi, I'm Jim Schenck, J-I-M-S-C-H-E-N-C-K. I'm a resident of Superior. Like Roy, I've worked for a number of mining companies in the United States and in Central and South America. I'm a resident of Superior, a small business owner, a Vista volunteer. I'm generally in favor of this project. However, I think there's a number of issues that need to be looked at. I really encourage Superior residents to attend the Thursday town meeting to hear how the town analyzes a number of these things and some of the mitigations that they're looking at. I invite you to look at the number of times in this document where it says no mitigation. These are things we need answers to. Alternative 4, Silver King, irrespective of it being dry stacking, is the only alternative that instead of having the copper go down to Santan in a pipeline, has 2 50-car trains every night. I have nowhere, and no one has been able to tell me why that's an alternative 4, but nowhere else. I personally believe that reactivating the Marco Railroad would provide economic benefit for the town of Superior, along with tourism options. So I'd like to see that looked at. I'm a member of the board of Legends of Superior Trails. We've worked with Resolution on the recreational users group. We've come up with a trail system that we think is really good. We're really excited about that. However, Bronco Creek owns mining rights on that land. And they're in a joint venture with Rio Tinto to explore there. Personally, I don't think this works as a mitigation if those mining rights are outstanding. I believe that Rio Tinto needs to buy those mining rights and turn them over to the town of Superior. You know, the Cultural Heritage Project was 1 year ago, and we looked at different options with Resolution to value the fact that the stack and the refinery area was destroyed. It's a year later, and we still haven't seen an analysis of alternatives from Resolution. I believe that when we discuss mitigations, they have to be solid. And, you know, it's common that mining companies bond for environmental degradation and to make sure that you can have a safe closure of a mine. I believe that the socioeconomic issues have to be bonded too. The issues that we haven't looked at yet could bankrupt Superior. I think it can be done, but there needs to be negotiation between the town and Resolution. Thank you.
I'm Jerry Waters, Jerry with a J, W-A-T-E-R-S. My background was in environmental engineering and metallurgical engineering. I'm a retired engineer. My main concern really is the tailings pile and the disaster potential that represents. We're talking about something 7 square miles and 500 feet tall. So it's significant, and I would be concerned that who might be affected if this pile were to collapse? How many people would be affected? Is there some sort of a buffer where you can't move in close to the pile? Or are we trying to make sure that we have safety that's maintained? Tailings drainage, I think, is a significant issue. I understand we're going to try to separate the pyrite out, and I don't know how this is done or if it is monitored daily, but the pyrite would be a sulfur-containing ore that I understand can become acidic with weathering. So it's important that the pyrite doesn't end up with the rest of the tailings, and that we don't get leachate that really contaminates the area. Solid-state landfills deal with similar issues, and they have liners, they have covers, they have leachate collection so that we can't build up a lot of water behind a big pile. And this kind of technology is ready to be used in the mining industry if somebody wants to pay for it. So we don't have to tolerate things that can kill people, and I don't think we should. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Winston Nosey. I'm a former chairman and also council for the San Carlos Apache Tribe for 36 years. And so by saying that alone, you can see how long I've been on this issue, practically all my life. There's a few things I want to say. First of all, where I'm really disappointed is with the Forest Service and the people involved in putting the study together, it's the spirituality of our people. How do you replace that? In other words, it's like destroying Mount Sinai, and how does that refer to your Bible today? How are you going to make that connection? So for us here, that's very important to us, how it's going to affect the next generation. How's that going to be replaced? So if they're going to be moving forward with something like this, they need to be able to define that, because that defining should be for all religion if they're going to destroy around the world. Because it's not fair to do that to one race of people, and yet we're the oldest people on this continent. And so that's where I'm disappointed. The number two that I'm disappointed is talking to the Indian monitors that they hired from different tribes. They didn't even know they were being used as a token to list 6 places and identify one that would be appropriate to put this tailing. Yet they didn't even know that they're going to be in the mix of this discussion that's going on today about Native people being used to say this is where it should go, so that it eliminates them from the argument, which is really, again, divide and conquer. And then again, not only in our community, but pretty much here in Superior, a lot of people have already been bought by Resolution Copper, yet they're the ones that are making decisions at the government level and within their activities. And yet those guys should be null and void in their speaking, because they're already bought and they're already speaking for the project. And the reason why I say this is because there's so many unanswered. I'm going to go back to Rick Renzi. Rick Renzi told me the day he got caught was, he said, "Wensler, this is wrong. It's a hill to climb, but it can be won." Because they're trying to get themselves exempt from NEPA, the law that governs this country. And just like some of the speakers before me who already outlined that if NEPA would have been done at the very beginning, then we won't be here tonight. And the other thing is, water is life. Everybody in this room got to remember that water is life. I mean, no matter what we do to the future and technology, if you do not have water, you do not have a community, you do not have your family. That's something really important that you need to understand. And the next thing is that what happens underneath the ground and what's going to be brought to the surface? What kind of new diseases are we going to be hit with? This is the very important reason why they have to get examined. And there's so much more, but people, you have to ask these questions. You have to look deep down in your heart to make that crucial decision about what tomorrow's going to be for our children. But I won't be making statements as we go, because 3 minutes is not very enough time, and yet, we're facing a devastation to the future. So we should be given the multiple time so that all this is addressed. So thank you.
Okay, I'd like to thank everyone for participating. We do have time if anyone else wants to provide a comment here during the hearing. So we have more opportunity. Would you like to finish? You did get cut off, so we'll give you a little bit more time to finish.
These are actually federal guidelines that this project does not abide by. Evidently, the people have not read the 1872 mining law, which they use as their reason that they can destroy our forests, because the law specifically states that mining claims can only be owned by U.S. citizens, certainly not by a foreign corporation. However, keep in mind that the Rio Tinto Group between 2000 and 2019 paid $20,785,000 to lobby U.S. Congress. So they must not have thought it was a good deal. Also, if they had to go through that, they also, between 2005 and 2020, they paid $383,000 directly to candidates. This would include the $7,500 per that Senator that's spelled SINATOR, that Senator McCain received in 2014 at the time he put the earmark on the military spending bill. We also have the Winters Doctrine that specifically states that when a federal reservation is created, it means that it can maintain the water to sustain the reservation. This law has been tested in courts to protect national forests, especially in California, but also here in Arizona, Supreme Court. The presiding judge wrote, the doctrine applies not only to Indian reservations, but also to other federal enclaves, such as national parks, forests, monuments, military bases, and wildlife reserves. We need to know the number of trees that they are planning to destroy by dewatering the region down to 7,000 feet and stop that action. Presidential land orders to preserve that kind of ground were signed by President Eisenhower and President Nixon and were never rescinded as far as I can ascertain. A presidential order is in place until another president rescinds it. I find no records that it has been rescinded. Keep in mind that in a meeting in Superior with Resolution Copper, town officials and citizens, I brought up the subject of using in situ mining, which does not need tailing impoundments, waste rock piles, and creating dust and chemicals in the air. I was told by the Resolution Copper rep that in situ was too expensive. So they have $21 million to influence Congress and billions to implement robots for a project that is going to fail. It is not engineeringly, technically feasible. And I'll cover that in another hearing.
Okay, thank you everyone for participating this evening. I mean, we can keep going, and if other people want to keep speaking. Okay.
Basically two things. The whole premise of the project, which you kind of alluded to also, is that somehow economics determines what they are allowed to do. And I don't understand. In other words, they don't have to have that 1,000-foot hole. The Forest Service is choosing to allow them to have that because it's more expensive to do it some other way. One, I don't understand. And the other thing is, I didn't realize they had a picture there, and they showed that after year 6, it's going to start subsiding. Why don't you just dump this stuff right back in the front? It's the same stuff, right? It's down, you just keep putting out, throw away, throw like that. There you go. I don't understand the premise of economics.
Okay, so we will have the open house continuing for another until 8:30 p.m. this evening. So, did you want to say? Yeah. And please, I'm asking you to please state your name for your comment.
Freeman, and I just want to share my opinion. I'm against resolution retail class. I was about 1960s, late 60s. I used to go to Oak Flats and gather acorns with my relatives. Not only that, but I saw live animals. I saw horny toads. I saw eagles fly. And I went back like a month ago. I don't see those creatures. They are dying. The ground is looking dead. The trees are not blooming like they used to bloom. And you know what? They are dying, and we're going to follow. Your kids are going to come down more with cancer rates. The incidence of cancer rates are from Globe, Miami, Superior. Just look around you in your neighborhoods. You know somebody next door neighbor, your family member, that has died of cancer. Why? Because of the tailings of the mine, the arsenic in the water. And I'm asking you, stop the mining in Oak Flats, in Apache Leap. We will be next. They died, and we will die with them. Thank you.
Sylvia Barrett, S-Y-L-V-I-A-B-A-R-R-E-T-T. My last comment. Why has Eric Hilsinger, for the climbers, refused to say how much money they are receiving from resolution for signing on to and backing this project? All parties profiting from this venture should disclose what they have received for signing on to this. We know what Superior is getting, but who else is getting something? And I think that should be part of what is in all this paperwork. They're all getting something, but the climbers are getting over $1 million, and I don't know what Superior is getting, but I've heard it as high as $2 million.
Just a very quick note here, because it's a very complicated subject, but regarding the archaeological survey, the archaeological values and mitigation of section 106 consultation. I have 10 pages with the comments and smoking things. They're not addressed. They're not proposed to be addressed in the draft EIS. I have looked at the draft program agreements. It's boilerplate. This can be done for any project anywhere that doesn't acknowledge or respect the special nature of the archaeological and cultural sites in this area. When something is submitted with the scoping phase, as I understand it, it needs to be addressed in the EIS. I was very careful to raise along those issues with questions. There's question marks at the end of each point. Questions have to be answered in the EIS. It's not happening here. I certainly understand the sensitive nature of much of this information, and I would never ask for that to be made public. But when we're talking about procedures, standards, the details of how this is going to be carried out, quality control, peer review, and so forth, that can be discussed in the EIS. I know it isn't. The PA needs to be completely redone. Everything, the whole process needs to be made transparent. So that's my comment for now. Also, I mentioned earlier that I had done an email to Mr. John Skaggs, and I did get a response back from him. And I want to provide that to Mr. Bosworth on the record. Just put on the record the problems that I had in proceeding in the first place.
Talk to you about this. I mean, how well do you know Oak Flat and all the endangered area? I mean, how well do you really know? Have you touched it, felt it, smelled it, you know, tasted it? I mean, have you really experienced it like maybe I have, or stay with maybe Apaches, or even more other people who come there, who dream of Oak Flat. They have dreams of Oak Flat ever since it's been, you know, endangered, and they come there and what I'm asking for is for you to look at
what the value is on that or anything like that. Where's it at? I don't even know. Is it in the books? I'm not sure. But I just want you to know that you are dealing with people who, I mean, if they take this, it's like ripping out our hearts. And I speak for myself, but I know I speak for a lot of other people too. And I just want you to keep that in mind, you know. I do not want to see my town be destroyed. I don't want to see the dust flying. I don't want to see that. I go to Oak Flat all the time, and I've seen how the springs have already dried up. You know, the deer tracks, trying to drink water out of this much. The pond out there, you guys remember the pond? Remember that pond out there where there were crane and there were ducks all the time and hawks flying around? There's nothing anymore. And they haven't even begun yet. This is just their first initial dewatering process so that they don't fill up the tunnels. But I just, consider everything. That's all I'm asking. That's what I pray about. That God opens up everyone's eyes and they just see it for what it really is. And we've got global warming coming here and change, and we've got to be taking care of our planet, not destroying it. I could go on and on, but you guys are listening. Thank you.
I guess for the record, I can't speak English. My name is Sandra Bamford. I come from the Metatwisson clan, which is the Rocks people. And they are like that dwelled all over Oak Flat, I explained earlier in Apache. And my roots are there. My great-grandparents are buried there. And I sure don't want no bulldozer to come over and take their remains, because that would be a complete desecration. My granddaughter had her ceremony there, coming of age ceremony there. We've had multiple dances there, and we will continue. We have a holy ground there that we continue to come and participate, and it's a church to us. And taking a piece of Oak Flat from us is like cutting an arm off or cutting a leg off, because that makes us who we are as our identity as Apache people. And that's where my roots are from. And I explained earlier that I didn't come from no other land. I didn't come from Europe, I didn't come from Asia. I didn't come from Queen Elizabeth's family. None of that sort. I'm a full-blood, bona fide, 100% San Carlos Apache. And I stand proud tonight to let you know that I will thank God, Creator God, for making me an Apache and for giving me the ability to stand up and speak out of how I feel about Oak Flat. I worked for the Tribal Council for 25 years. I worked under 5 different tribal administrations, and each administration passed and reaffirmed resolutions saying that Oak Flat is a holy place to our people. And I would continue to stand behind each and every council member that voted in that favor. And it would behoove you to at least think sensibly and be smart. You don't want subsidence. You do not want subsidence. In Apache, we say Mikauke. That means that's the end of time when that happens. And that's a prophecy in the Apache language, Apache culture. When there's a subsidence, might as well forget it. There goes your land, there goes your water, there goes your livelihood, and there goes whatever you have left on this land. So to us it's sacred, and I ask the U.S. Forest Service to not only extend, but to give us an opportunity to fully be heard like we should have been under NEPA and under the cultural laws that were made to protect people like ourselves. And we will fight for our water. We're not going to give up. We're fighters. That's who we are as Apaches. Thank you.
where it goes. What I would just want to touch on real quick is that when they were exempt from NEPA, as far as we understand it, is that regardless at the end, the land transfer is going to happen anyway. So to us, we see it as just a show that it's going to happen anyway. Because the real fight, because these guys here are mandated by the people of Congress. I mean, because we talk to the agencies in Washington, and they're adhering to Congress in what John McCain did of Ignite Right. And so the only way we can really get movement on it is in Washington. But these guys can also do us a favor and really address this issue back to Congress and say that they need to bring it back for a hearing in Congress. So if they mean well, this is what these individuals can do for the betterment of all the people that live in southern Arizona. Because the effect is going to be a major effect that will affect us forever. So here, we're just here, they're just doing the process. I mean, let's be real. But what they can do for us is to take this and address it back to the congressional people and say, you have to have a hearing on this. You've got to hear it. It's a lot bigger than what we thought. It's affecting the livelihood of people. And then they know too, because they go around to the reservations, all the tribes, my relatives, and offer them money. The reservation can do this, do that. So they started a lot of programs in different reservations so they don't have to be a part of this issue. So they're doing that to tribes, they're doing that to all the communities. Because I'm in Globe, the same way in Globe. You know, so talking to Globe miners, they're real threatened by this because why is it a hush-hush? And why is it that they're subject to NEPA when Resolution Copper, a foreign company, is not going to be subject to NEPA? So they're rushing around for NEPA, what do you call them, when they come in and they check their mines to see they're applying by the rules. Well, how can that be for Resolution Copper when they're never going to have that? And then the second thing they argue about is that what happens after Resolution Copper releases? Where is the U.S. Forest Service going to play a role during and after? What happens after? And the last thing I need to tell you people here in Superior and from other counties is what we learned in Washington is that if you don't write now, then you can never file a lawsuit against them later for your children. For your children. Because if what we say is going to happen, and we don't say nothing now, our kids are going to be upset at us today for not speaking up. Because where are they going to go? And one of the things that I've learned is that towns like this are no different than reservations. The way we're stuck to the reservation, there are a lot of people stuck here that can't do much, that are stuck from these county lines, cities. So yours are called a city and state, ours is called reservation. But anyway, you know, that's my question to these guys. You know, they need to take it back to DC and say, you gotta have a hearing on this again. There's new information, you gotta hear it.
Okay, thank you very much for participating this evening. Like I said, we will be here until 8:30 with the open house. There are a lot of people that participated in drafting parts of the EIS and have a lot of information to answer any questions that you might have. So, thank you.